very meaningful. And so these two are very important for us.
Great. I think there's going to be a lot of takeaways that today all our participant teachers are going to be taking back. And I think all their classrooms are now going to be very rich in terms of engagement, in terms of all the newer technologies that they can. And yeah, I mean, I'm myself super excited to know more.
Thank you so much. And the most super excited is the best part is my colleague, Dr. Vishwanathan, has also joined this session, and he will share with more insightful about neuroscience and classrooms and why neuroscience is very important for our educators and teachers and trainers. So in this session, we both will be going hand in hand, and I am also super thrilled to hear from him too.
Very true. Welcome, sir. Namaskar. Great to know you.
Namaste, ma'am. Namaste.
Namaste. Okay, so just before we start, a small request if we can have the entire session between English and Hindi, because a lot of our participants are Maharashtrians. Okay. So the language would be easier for them if you could balance it between English and Hindi. Yeah? Okay. Great. Sure. So 1 minute to go. We'll just wait for the last 1 minute, have more participants join in, and then we'll go ahead.
That's super.
Great. Thank you.
Hello, interesting, ma'am. Thanks a lot. So, namaskar.
नमस्कार सर. नमस्कार.
ओके, सारे टीचरों को मेरा एक स्वागत है. मैं डॉक्टर नयन भिड़ा, ऐसा दड़वी फाउंडेशन की ओर से मैं आपका सबका स्वागत कर रहा हूँ. जो नए हैं, जो हमारे साथ अभी भी जुड़े हैं, एक क्विकली में जल्दी से आपको मैं एक ऐसा दड़वी फाउंडेशन का एक संक्षेप में आपको मैं समझाता हूँ. ये एक फाउंडेशन है जो टीचर्स के लिए बनाया गया है. इट इज ओनली फॉर टीचर्स, फॉर द टीचर्स, ऑफ द टीचर्स, बाय अ टीचर. सो शुरुआत की थी इसकी, इस फाउंडेशन के जो फाउंडर है वो सीता दड़वी और उनके हस्बैंड रामचंद्र दड़वी. सीता दड़वी एक 12 साल तक सेकेंडरी स्कूल के टीचर रहे हैं. और ये पेंडेमिक के बाद जब उन्होंने देखा कि सब लोग कुछ अपनी अपनी तरफ ओर से अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, कई एनजीओ अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, तो इनको भी लगा कि भाई हमको भी कुछ करना चाहिए. भगवान ने इनको ऊपर अभी काफी कुछ इनको दे रखा है, तो उनको लगा कि भाई हमको समाज के लिए कुछ अच्छा काम करना चाहिए. और ये सोच से, क्योंकि वो खुद टीचर रह चुकी है, तो ऑब्वियस था कि जाहिर सी बात है कि हम फाउंडेशन जो बनाया वो टीचर के लिए बनाया. और इसके पीछे एक बहुत क्लियर एक प्रिंसिपल है, एक सोच है कि एक जो टीचर होते हैं वो नेशन को गढ़ते हैं. दे आर टीचर्स ऑफ द नेशन बिल्डर. एक जब टीचर स्कूल में जब पढ़ाती है तो एक ऐसा वो व्यवसाय है, ऐसा एक प्रोफेशन है जो क्लासरूम में नए प्रोफेशन को, नए व्यवसाय को जन्म देता है. टीचर इज अ प्रोफेशन वेयर इट क्रिएट्स प्रोफेशंस इन द क्लासरूम. उनके क्लासरूम में कोई डॉक्टर बनता है, कोई सीए बनता है, कोई इंजीनियर बनता है, और ऐसे करके एक राष्ट्र का निर्माण होता है. एक राष्ट्र का एक पूरी जो राष्ट्र जो है वो बिल्ड होता है. तो एक अच्छे टीचर, और टीचर को अपस्किल करना, टीचर को एम्पावर करना, टीचर के लिए वेलफेयर प्रोग्राम करना, इस उद्देश्य के साथ ये एक फाउंडेशन का निर्माण हुआ था. और कुछ अभी करीब 1 साल होने को हम एक्चुअली काम कर रहे हैं. और 1 साल में करीब 6000 टीचर हमारे साथ अभी तक जुड़ चुके हैं. करीब 50,000 टीचर तक हम पहुंच चुके हैं. और ऐसे कई प्रोग्राम हम करते हैं टीचरों के लिए, जैसे वेबिनार से, ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम से, अवार्ड फंक्शन से, काफी कुछ हम लोग टीचर के लिए कर रहे हैं. और सबका आपकी तरफ से भी कोई जितने भी टीचर है कुछ भी अगर करना चाहे तो आप हमसे बात करिए. आप बहुत उत्साह के साथ आपको सुनेंगे. और मिलके ये एक बहुत क्लियर है, आप टीचर, सब लोग टीचर, आप समझते हैं कि एक कोई व्यक्ति का या 2 व्यक्ति का काम नहीं होता. जब सारे टीचर्स अगर मिल जाते हैं, जब मिलके काम करेंगे, तो हम बहुत एक बड़ा बदलाव ले आ सकते हैं हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम में और अपने खुद के लाइफ में. तो जो भी टीचर है हमारे साथ जुड़िए. और अपना हम लोग का एक ऐप भी है, एक कम्युनिटी की ऐप है, टीचर्स कम्युनिटी. केवल टीचर्स के लिए ऐप बनाया गया है, टीचर टॉक करके। उस पर हमारे साथ जुड़िए, हमारे साथ कम्युनिकेट करिए, एंड वी वुड लव टू हियर फ्रॉम ऑल ऑफ यू कि हम मिलके क्या कर सकते हैं एज अ टीचर दूसरे और टीचरों के लिए पूरे इंडिया में। पूरे अभी फिलहाल तो हमारा फोकस महाराष्ट्र है, लेकिन ग्रेजुअली हम पूरे धीरे इंडिया में सब टीचरों को हम शामिल करना चाहेंगे। थैंक यू वेरी मच एंड मंजुला जी, आप वंस अगेन आपका स्वागत है, एंड आई होप ऑल द पार्टिसिपेंट्स you would enjoy the talks from Manjula ji. Over to you, Manjula.
Thank you so much for your generous introduction. And we are also very happy to see your the progress in teaching community. Teachers are the real pillars or the architects of our country.
Very true.
That's very important. So now, like, I would like to set the context why we are here. So we all know that India was a colony of British, right? India was ruled by British for almost 150 years, and they have made us work for them. They have exploited us, they have looted us, and so many things. And apart from that, they have also done lots of good things to us. They have introduced some education system, they have introduced a transport system, healthcare, and so on. So here, the one thing when we talk about the education system, what kind of education system they have introduced? Yes, they have introduced the behaviorist education system. Right from our B.Ed education and M.Ed education, we have been learning about Skinner's theories, Thorndike theories, Pavlov's theories, rewards and punishment, response and stimuli, and so conditioning theories and so on. But what do you think? Do you think that learning is just depending on the behavior? It's just no in current generation. And it's not at all possible. And what we tell as a cognitivism or cognitivist, what we tell is behavior is important, and all the behavior is communication, and communication happens in our brain. And hence, everything we would like to see from the brain science perspective, and brain science is the ultimate because everything is evidence-based. Right? So with this note, we will be introducing why we need to introduce a new pedagogy to our classroom to teach this Generation Z students or alpha kids. So for that, first, I would like to share this very simple distinction between what is this traditional schools and what is this neural concept school. And then further, I will walk you through this. What is this unique pedagogy we are introducing our neural concept school, and followed by what are the different trades or the different line of items we will be learning through our brain science. All right, now I will be sharing my screen. And yes, here we go. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So here is a simple slide where I'm just put it in 2 columns about the traditional school and neural concept school. So traditional schools are those schools that currently what our students are learning in. It might be CBSE school, it might be state board school, it might be ICSE board, or it might be any school in this India or in this world. Those are considered to be the traditional schools, and most of the traditional schools are bound to have the behaviorist model as their education system. And in the first important point in our traditional school, in the current traditional schools, we could see that students and teachers are experiencing the two-dimensional ethos, either good, bad, or right or wrong. Sahi, galat, yeah, like what do you say, good or bad? Just pardon for my broken Hindi. Like in case if I do any kind of grammatical mistake, or like if I fail to express in Hindi, please pardon me. Wherever it's possible, I will keep the language very simple, very subtle. All right.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And in our neural concept school, we follow the 4-dimensional ethos. Along with the good, bad, right, wrong, we also bring in technology, we tech enabled, and also we bring in lots of collaboration between the teacher students, teachers, teacher parents and managements, and all the stakeholders across the system, ecosystem, right? Again, in traditional schools, it's mostly content driven, where we try to pour lots and lots of content, information in that empty brain, whereas in the neural concept school, it is mostly brain informed. जहां हम we give lots of importance for the brain development of the structures, development of the different parts of the brain, right? And in a traditional school, mostly we follow labeling and stratification. That is, we are more into like understand about what are the effects, what are the results, end results. Every schools, every management, right from K-12 kindergarten school till the top-notch universities, we are interested to see the our progress report. अब हमारा बच्चों को A grade दिया है या 100 marks मिला है, हम कितना परसेंटाइल मिला है, कितना परसेंटेज मिला है, उतना ही देखना चाहते हैं. But otherwise we are not considering about the what is the effect portion of a child. How is the child feeling about any circumstances, or it's all about the feelings and emotions. Whereas in neural concept school हम क्या follow कर रहे हैं कि universal design for learning. It sounds very big, right? Very large words. But in universal design for learning, we believe lots of affect, emotions, and feelings are more important. If we give priority for feelings and emotions, definitely the end results will be just awesome. So it's like how Sri Krishna has told, don't concentrate on the end results, just perform your duties. In that, while you're performing your duties, put your soul, your heart, and emotions, then you could see your result. And now the question comes, what do you mean by universal design for learning? So in universal design for learning, we create the buffet of learning experiences. सपोज हम एक रेस्टोरेंट या होटल पे गए तो हम एक थाली मील्स भी ऑर्डर करते हैं, उसमें फिक्स्ड डेलिकेसीज होता है, एक रोटी होता है, एक चावल होता है, थोड़ा एक सब्जी होता है, थोड़ा स्वीट होता है, इट्स अ फिक्स्ड. सम आप लोगों को ये अच्छा लगता है, कुछ सब्जियां अच्छा नहीं लगता है, फिर भी आपको जो पैसा दिया है उसको खाना खा के आप चला जाते हैं. Somewhere you don't relish it or enjoy it, or maybe you're not happy with the amount what you have paid for that particular thali meals. Whereas in the universal design for learning, or you're providing the buffet of dishes or delicacies for the child. So the child will go make his platter, एक ताट लेगा, थाली लेगा, और उसको जो जो चाहिए वो सब उसके थाली में डालकर वो खाना खाएगा. And whatever he has taken in his plate, he will relish it, he will enjoy it, and he'll make sure that whatever he has paid for the buffet meal, he'll make sure that he has eaten full and complete food. That is universal design for learning. So here from our designers or the educators and so on, we request that create the buffet of learning experiences in the classroom. Let the child create that their platters and then enjoy their meals, right? And next comes very important in our traditional schools, they follow that students are very passive learners. They believe in rote learning. Whereas in a neural concept school, we believe in engagement and active learners, where students are very generative. They're very critical thinking. They're very creative by nature. So one side is passive learner, other side is engagement or very active learners. So here in passive learner, बच्चे सिर्फ पाठ सुनते हैं, and how much do they learn? How much do they hear? That God alone knows. Maybe in the next 2 hours, if I just make you sit for just 2 hours, just pour the information and just go on, maybe the sessions will land up in, it might be very boring to you all. So passive learners or rote learning is just no from the neuroscience perspective. Always engage the child. Once you start engaging the child, there will be lots of disciplinary issues can be resolved. So next important thing is from the traditional schools and neural concept school is routine expertise, then extrinsic motivations and deterministic worldview. And whereas in neural concept school, growth mindset, adaptive expertise, and intrinsic motivation. So these three are very important. One is we are speaking from the growth mindset, or from the mindset perspective, from the motivation perspective, and at last expertise perspective. When these three are very important, if any teacher or educators or even the students or any stakeholders in the ecosystem, if we are in the fixed routine and extency, we cannot achieve any kinds of result. So we have to make sure that we are in the growth mindset, look forward for new things, experiment new things, embrace the new things, and so on. And next comes your intrinsic motivation. Always give priority for the autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Why am I here? For what purpose I am here? Have I mastered all these skills, or do I have this autonomy? Do I have the freedom? So once any children or any teachers have certain autonomy, that is freedom, then mastery, and if they know their purpose, definitely there would be an amazing results in the school. And next is compliance focus. In traditional schools, most of our teachers, they believe they like the compliant students, right? जो बच्चा बहुत ही अच्छा पढ़ता है, बहुत ही नीट एंड टाइडी है, सारा नोटबुक्स कंप्लीट है, करेक्शंस देता है, वेरी डिसिप्लिन्ड है, तो लाइक टीचर्स को बहुत ही अच्छा लगता है उन बच्चों को पाठ करने के लिए. But whereas in our neural concept school, we believe that ANS, autonomic nervous system reactivity, is very important, and we train our teachers to teach an orchid child. So what do you mean by this orchid child? So here as per neuroscience, we tell that there are some children who are very reactive in nature or resilient by nature, but there are few children very sensitive. So it's very easy to teach a dandelion or a resilient child, but very difficult to teach a sensitive kid. So here, when a teacher is trained to teach an orchid child, so other dandelions will definitely fall in place. But whereas in our traditional schools, we only focus on the compliant kid. Next comes rewards and punishments. Definitely we give rewards for the good behavior and we punish for the bad behavior, and label is to always limit. We try to stratify each and every kid in the classroom. But whereas in our neural concept school, we believe in self-efficacy. We believe that teach about RAS or RASiness. RASiness stands for reticular activating system, which is the bundle of white tracts or the bundle of nerves, which helps you to filter certain informations or feelings or thoughts or whatever the child needs to absorb. It absorbs through with the help of RAS. So we believe in self-efficacy. Then apart from that, we also train our teachers we teach about plasticity. From the neuroscience perspective, we tell that neuroplasticity is very important. What do you mean by plasticity? Plasticity refers to that brain is very malleable by nature. It can change. Every new experiences, it can change. So during the course our time, there are different types of plasticity, like structural plasticity or functional plasticity and so on. So when a teacher knows that the brain is very malleable in nature, she'll always give a second thought. Am I supposed to stratify this kid? ए बच्चा कुछ नहीं पढ़ने वाला है, वो छोड़ दीजिए. We'll never do that mistake in our life. So for that kind of children, when we give the right interaction and right intervention, definitely the child can really take off in his career, in his profession, and with himself a self-confidence. And next comes, last but not the least, long-term potentiation. You might have heard about this word. Long-term potentiation refers to the synaptic enhancement. We are the owners of 100 billion neurons. Even a kid, a newborn baby, has also got 100 billion neurons. Even we have got 100 billion neurons. But what is the difference between a kid and an adult? You will be learning in the following session. So when there is an interaction between these two neurons, then when this synaptic connections is stronger and stronger, then we can call it as long-term potentiation. This will happen only through lots of cognitive rehearsal. So this is a very brief, in a nutshell, I have shared what do you mean by traditional school and what do you mean by neural concept school. So 2-dimensional, 4-dimensional. Here content driven, brain informed. So labeling and stratification and universal design for learning, fixed routine and extrinsic, and growth adaptive and intrinsic, and so on. But here, now we should understand that new education policy 2020, there are many words and phrases they have used about the whole brain centric learning system, brain aligned programs, and so on. Even the UNESCO 2030 policy, the sustainable policy, what they tell is, even they also emphasize on not to stratify any children in the classroom, create that safe place for the children, always look for the flourishing of humane in the world, and just give lots of importance for the effective psychomotor. And definitely content is important, but content should not be just pouring the information, but you have to use the content to develop the brain. So this is a very simple difference between the traditional school and neural concept school. Now I'll stop sharing my screen. Now I will be sharing what do you mean. There is a certain 21st century pedagogy what we use in our classrooms. Before bringing in that 21st century pedagogy or neuroscience based pedagogy, I would like to request everyone to switch on your cameras and stand up for a minute. I request everybody to stand up, and everybody, it's a kind request. We all are teachers. Just spread your arms and have a self hug. And why do we do this? This is a very important in a classroom. Whenever we, this is actually a virtual classroom, and I don't have any access to you all. But still, when we begin this kind of physical, when we begin any session with the help of a physical activity, you're not only helping the child to bring lots of fun in the classroom, it's all about you're bringing lots of bilateral activities where you're crossing the midline. Right? There are the bundle of nerves which interacts between the left brain and the right brain. So these nerves has to interact with each other, and hence we do lots of bilateral activities. Apart from that, while learning anything new, your blood should not be in your thighs, but it should rush to your brain. So hence, when you stand up, do certain jogging, do certain exercises, which will help to have a blood flow in your brain, and you're freeing up your working memory space, and also you're filling up lots and lots of happy neurotransmitters in the classrooms like oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. Maybe I'm sounding slightly a kind of Greek and Latin. Don't fret, my dear teachers. These are really fun. All right. So now I request my colleague, Dr. Vishwanathan, to walk you through what is this 21st century pedagogy, or what is this. Now I'll be revealing the name of this pedagogy. This name of this pedagogy is Challenge Mosaic, which is a 5-step approach, which helps you to learn through an iterative cycle. And we all know that learning is not just which starts with point A and ends with point B, but learning is a continuous process, and it is an iterative process. Now I request my colleague, Dr. Vish, to take over and share what is Challenge Mosaic and take the session further. Thank you.
Thank you, Manjula. And sorry?
I request teachers to take their seats.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Manjula, and namaskar to everyone, all the teachers out there. And we are going to have indeed a fantastic session for next couple of minutes. I guess it should be roughly to about 60 minutes. And before we proceed anywhere, I just wanted to quickly thank the organizers, the Dalby Foundation, and of course, the Institute for Brain and Behavior Research Foundations in association with braindraft.com to ensure that this webinar is happening. All right, so my name is Vishwanathan, and my full name is Vishwanathan Jayaraman. I go by my known name is Vish. And once again, welcome you all to this beautiful webinar in trying to understand the neuroscience for educators. So before we proceed any further, I just wanted to show you this model of this brain. And we're going to speak about this biological marvel indeed a lot today, and of course, a lot of Greek and Latin words in, and of course, the beautiful pedagogy that Manjula ma'am was mentioning. We will get into the depth of that as well. And before we get there, I just want you to think for a minute what all these things entails. So here's this mass of jelly. All right, this is a hard one, but actually this is a mass of jelly, roughly weighing about 1.5 kilograms that you can hold in the palm of your hand. आप हमारे दिमाग जो है उसको हमारे हाथ में ऐसे पकड़ सकते हैं. It you can actually hold. So that brain has got the ability to contemplate the meaning of infinity. It can contemplate the interstellar space. It can contemplate itself contemplating the meaning of infinity. And this peculiar recursive quality, what we call self-awareness, is the holy grail of neuroscience and of neurology. Hopefully, we'll be able to understand that in detail someday better. So that's about the neuroscience. But today's session, we will be trying to see how we can demystify these Greek and Latin words. जो बड़े-बड़े neuroscience के words जो हैं, जो हम hospital corridors में जाते हैं तो वहाँ पे superior longitudinal fasciculus, cingulate gyrus, ये जो words जो corpus callosum, जो words जो doctors वहाँ पे use करते हैं, how can we simplify that? उसको कैसे हम आमतौर के जिंदगी में जो भाषा हम प्रयोग करते हैं उसमें हम कैसे translate कर सकते हैं? And how can that be used in our education? Or how can we understand the research and the discoveries that we are finding in neuroscience into the education field? So we say that if you have to teach to the brain, it is important that we need to understand this brain, because end of the day, it's all 40 different brains sitting in a classroom. And it is important for us to understand our brain first and the students' brains, of course. What is this brain actually made up of? Because cognition actually happens here, not in any other part of the body. And that plays a major role in the learning. So in order to impress or ignite the learning process, it is important for us as a teacher to understand the concepts of neuroscience. And thereby, the neuroscience for educator has evolved. And I guess this is going to be the schedule for today. You have 5 to 5:15, the welcome and intro. I guess that's over. And of course,
Go.
yeah, can I request the participants to go on mute, please? Thank you. And of course, Manjula ma'am has given a beautiful distinction between what is a traditional classroom and what is a neural concept classroom would probably look like. So in this webinar, we are going to talk about the theory, we are going to talk about the pedagogy, and of course, we will also give you a hands-on to understand how the concepts that we are discussing can be implemented in the classroom. So roughly it's going, yeah, Manjula ma'am, if you can help mute the other participants, it will be good. So roughly this is going to be till 7 p.m. and it's going to be a wonderful session. It's going to be really, really an eye-opener session for all the teachers and of course the educators. And we're going to be touching upon the flipped classroom materials, and flipped classroom materials are so important because flipped classroom gives us the time for processing the information. And this processing of the information is so important for us because this is the time when we compare and contrast the new information that is coming in with the old information that we have. We try to compare and contrast the old information with the new information that is coming. And then we try to see what is the new thing that is coming. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we assimilate it, or sometimes we contradict it. Whatever is the case may be, the difference or the change that is going to happen is the conceptual change, and that's the new meaning for the learning. And we will see that in this session as well today. And of course, we will give you through the directions. And at the end of the webinar, we are open to take any questions you have with reference to the neuroscience for educators. All right, so before we proceed over there, I just wanted to share with you about the challenge mosaic model. And this challenge mosaic model that I have over here behind me, if you see. So this is the model that we created. This is created by the learning scientist. And when we created this, we had no idea, or we never thought that we will take a print and put this. But when we discussed about this challenge mosaic pedagogy with the students and participants and teachers, they all wanted to touch it and feel it. And then they said, how does it actually look like? So in order to make our learning and our life simple, what we did was we just put this 6-step process in a color print, and then we took the sprint, and then we laminated. And then there you see in front of us is this challenge mosaic board. So basically, this is what it looks like. So you have the challenge over here. And today we of course have the challenge, a beautifully crafted challenge by Manjula ma'am. I will not disclose it now, but as we progress, I will share that the challenge. So it all begins with the challenge. This is the place we start with, and then we go to the initial thoughts, and then we go to the multiple perspectives, and then we go to the reflections, and then we go to the revised thinking, and then we go to the report out session. This is a step-by-step, no-skip approach of learning, and this is a multiple scaffolding methods that we use for the learning. So it's not the one-time single way that we teach something to the kids and we expect the kids to learn. This is multiple steps. We are giving the enough and ample opportunities for the students to learn. हम एक बार एक concept पढ़ा के हम student को वो उसके बारे में दोहराने के लिए नहीं बोलते हैं. ये at least 6 steps, 6 बार student को opportunity मिलता है एक ही concept पढ़ने के लिए within the 40-45 minutes एक पीरियड में जो है within the time limit. So इससे क्या होता है, student gets involved and then he's able to learn. If he's not able to, पहली बार उसको समझ में नहीं आया, second time he'll be able to understand in the scaffolding methods of learning. And like I said, in the challenge board, this is how the challenge board looks like. We start the challenge we move towards the 6-step process. We started over here in the challenge, and we use certain NED heads. NED heads are any of those items. It can be an eraser, it can be a googly eyes, it can be coins, it can be pen or anything that you can use as a NED head, neural education head, basically to just represent the student. Sometimes we use the plastic chips, or sometimes we use the sketch pens also. We use it on the challenge mosaic board. So it actually doesn't matter what we are using. So long as blue color is me and green color is my friend and the orange is someone else and red color is someone else, it is just an idea to show that it's the mental visual representation of me who is involved in the game, and the game over here is what we call as a learning. The name of the game is a learning. So long as I am being presented over there, I see myself in this challenge board, and then I sort of create a mental visual of, or a mental model or a mental map of myself being in that game. And like I said, the name of the game is the learning. So basically we have in the challenge board something called initial thoughts. Initial thoughts is very, very important. And why is it important for us to spend 1 minute on the initial thoughts? The next step after the challenge is the initial thoughts. In initial thoughts, we give 1 minute for the students to spend their time over there. The reason why we are giving 1 minute for the student to contemplate on this initial thoughts is we want the students to lean into the subject that we are teaching. That is to draw their attention so that they are involved in this game of the learning. So we spend good 1 minute on gathering the initial thoughts. Now, most often what happens is when the students are sitting in the classroom, when we teach anything, let's say, for example, if I ask you, teachers, if I ask you, what is 2 into 2? You would say 2 into 2 is 4. That's so simple and so easy to understand. And when I say, what is 844 into 526? And now you will say, oh my God, that's so difficult for me to calculate. Provided you give me a piece of paper and a pen, I will multiply it and get the answer. मैं आपको answer बता दूंगा. It takes time. So similarly, what happens when we are teaching a complex topic into the classroom, and when we bring the complex topic straight away to the students, and when we not draw their attention, what happens is this threat response automatically gets triggered. And this is the reason why most of the students say, Max, मुझे तो Max से डर लगता है. Science, मुझे तो Science से डर लगता है. And this is the reason why most of the students do not go beyond this threat response. This threat response is very, very important for us to understand because it also creates the stress levels to go up. When the stress levels go up, cortisols and adrenals are released in the body, and sometimes, or most often, for some, they shut down. So they do not open up when we are teaching. It completely shut down, and they say, and after the class, when we ask, have you understood? They say, no, sir, everything went beyond my head. And it's very, very important for us to go over from amygdala to PFC. Now, this amygdala and PFC are the words are new to you. I haven't taught to you what this amygdala or prefrontal cortex means, but the idea of amygdala is the amygdala is a fear-struck brain or fear-driven brain. And when somebody is there in the fear-struck brain or fear-driven brain, or किसी को डर लगता है वो subject से, he will not be able to learn. The overall idea is to give the initial thoughts to move the students from amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is this part of the brain, the superior part of the brain. And when I bet you, when someone is there in the prefrontal cortex, learning always happens. So it's important for us to move the students from amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. And this initial thoughts really helps, because in initial thoughts, it is purely for their own student consumption. It is not for anyone. The students write down, and it is only for their eyes and their consumptions. It is not for anyone. So at the end of 1 minute, nobody asks them what they wrote or what did they understand about this topic. It is just for us to draw the students, to lean in, to draw their attention, and to begin the teaching process. And once I have done that, I'm going to give them the multiple perspectives. And multiple perspectives is very important. The reason why we need to give the multiple perspectives. Okay, so is my audio clear? Because it's fading out over here.
Yes, sir, it's absolutely clear.
All right. Okay. So once we are done with the initial thoughts, and notice another thing. So Manjula ma'am did a fantastic job. And what she said was, if she was ever teaching to the students right in the classroom with about 40 to 50 students sitting in a classroom, she will never ever begin the class without doing something that helps them to cross over the midline. Which means before beginning, she all helped us to cross over the midline. It's very simple. All that we need to do is take your right hand, put it on the left shoulder, and take your left hand, put it on the right shoulder. And you do this vigorously for some time, so that what happens is the blood flow happens right to the brain. So notice two things. Even before she started teaching to the students, she spent ample time in order to prepare the brain. First, she helped the students cross over the midline. She made the blood flow to the right areas of the brain, not to stay in the wrong ends of the body. That's the first thing. And second, she gave them the initial thoughts. Initial thoughts are so important because it helps them to get over from the stress level. It helps them to lean in and then start paying attention to the subject that you're teaching. And multiple perspectives of place here where actually the content is residing. So this is the place where we're going to put content. Let's say if I'm going to teach math, I'll put the math here. If I'm going to teach science, यहाँ पे science डालूंगा. If I'm going to teach sports, I'll put sports here. If I'm going to teach poetry, I'll put poetry. If I'm going to teach yoga, I'm going to put yoga. So it doesn't matter what we're putting over here. So multiple perspectives is where I'm going to put the content over here. And then thereafter, once I put the content and teach the students about the content, and I then walk them through a very important stage of the learning process. So this is where actually a stage where it helps to adjust the students or help the students to adjust the thinking in public. So we have carefully crafted 3 important questions. पहले तो initial thoughts दिया हमने, उससे पहले हमने brain को prepare किया, we help them to cross over the midline. उसके बाद हमने initial thoughts दिया, उसके बाद हमने multiple perspectives दिया, जिसमें content जहाँ पे content resides होता है, content देने के बाद, then we are checking the students on 3 important scaffolding questions. And this is very important to adjust their thinking in the public, because here it's going to be in a group. So I'm going to ask 3 important questions. The first question is, what surprised you? Okay. The reason why we're bringing this what surprised you is because anyone can be surprised. Okay. Because if anyone is in the survival, we are all in survival instinct, right? If you're in the survival instinct, anyone can be surprised. And we use this to our advantage. If you're able to surprise anyone, then there is a possibility of learning exists over there. Okay. And this is where we use this surprise to our advantage, and then we start engaging the students. So first question is, what surprised you? And what surprised you also is related to the reptilian part of the brain or the ancient part of the brain, where we are thinking only about the survival instinct. So if you ask the students what surprised you, you're allowing the student to get out of the zone of being surprised, because that is the time when the students will be able to engage with the teacher for the better learning. The second important question is, what did you know, but now see in a different way? And this is so important question. This is so important because we are talking about moving away from the survival instinct to the midbrain. Okay, there might be possibility that let's say if I'm teaching algebra, मैं तो algebra के बारे में पढ़ा होगा, I would have studied about that. Or if I'm teaching about geography, maybe I would have studied in my private space about this geography. But now since the teacher has taught me in a different way, I might say, oh my God, ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं क्या? ऐसे भी पढ़ सकते हैं क्या? Or this, is there a method this way also? So what we're doing is we are moving away to the metacognitive space. Now we are moved from the survival instinct to the metacognitive space. And if someone is there in the metacognitive space, we can guarantee that they are in the prefrontal cortex brain. When they are in the prefrontal cortex brain, and I can bet you there is some serious learning actually happening. Okay, if somebody is metacognitive space, some serious really learning can happen. And this is the time when student will not be worried about what others will be thinking. अरे मैं कुछ बोल के मैं गलत तो नहीं बोल रहा हूँ और मेरे दोस्त मेरे बारे में क्या समझेगा और should I say something मैं should I make a fool of myself और लोग क्या सोचेंगे मैं गलत बोल दिया तो all this thought process will not be there in answering these questions. What did you know, but now you see in a different way. The third important question is very, very important. What do you know, but what do you want to know further? What do you want to know further is a very, very interesting question. The reason why this is interesting is because nobody wants to show their weakness. Nobody wants to show their signs of space of vulnerability. Okay, it's like if somebody has not understood also, they go and ask them, "आपको समझ में आया क्या?" They would say, हाँ, थोड़ा समझ में आया. Nobody will say at the outset, मेरे को समझ में नहीं आया, because that's how we are. So when you craft a question in such a way that you're helping the student to adjust, saying, well, I understood this, but I need help in this area. So when you say I need help in this area, there is a possibility of beautiful learning that can happen out. And this is so important for a teacher to understand in classroom because many times this happens in a classroom where the teacher finishes teaching and then teacher students से पूछते हैं कि आप लोगों को समझ में आया. Most of the time students they just not answer yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. But actually उनको समझ में नहीं आया because we have not given them the opportunity with this question to say what more help do you want, because nobody wants to share their weaknesses and vulnerability saying that अरे मैं तो समझ में नहीं आया. So when you craft a question like this, then there is actually a serious engagement that can happen, and we can go past the situation of most often that we find in a classroom that most of the students don't learn, and we go ahead teaching the other areas in that particular subject because their foundation is not built correctly and they are unable to consume the other topics for them that we teach. And that's why very often we see in a classroom, बच्चा तो 8वीं कक्षा में आ गया होगा, 9वीं कक्षा में आ गया होगा, लेकिन उसको बेसिक एलसीएम के बारे में पता नहीं होगा और बेसिक उसको ग्रामर के बारे में पता नहीं होगा. And he will continue. Of course, we also have the other formalities of promoting students to the other classes, but actual engagement of learning hasn't happened because the student has not engaged his whole brain into the game. The game here is what is called as learning. And then we move to something very interesting area called revised thinking. And revised thinking is very, very interesting phase of the scaffolding learn of the challenge mosaic pedagogy that we are using. Because here, this is the place where, let's say there are 40 students in a classroom, we make a group of about 8. So we make typically about 5 groups. So 5 8s are 40. And out of this 8 people in one group, we assign them certain roles. Like for example, one is made a spokesperson, the other one is made a scribe, another one is made timekeeper, another one is made a reporter. The reason, and you of course today, I'm sure Manjula ma'am will be doing that activity. You will be given a task to perform. The reason why we do this is because we don't want students to sit back ideally and then say, आप लोग कुछ करो, मैं तो classroom में बैठूंगा और उठ के चले जाऊंगा bell होने के बाद. No, we want everyone to get engaged in the learning process. And the reason why we are assigning roles to all is because this is so important in 21st century learning process. Because 21st century learning process is all about the collaborative learning. And when you actually bring in the students together and put them for a collaborative learning, and of course, collaborative learning is one of the critical skills also as per the 21st century learning process. What really happens is you're not making them just critical thinkers. but you're going one step ahead in making them the original thinkers. When you assign those roles and the scaffolding process of learners, students not only become critical thinkers, they become the original thinkers, and then they won't go back to their homes to look for the YouTubes or look for the Google or look for any other piece of information that is available on the internet in order to gather the knowledge. Rather, they will be their own researcher. They will start producing their own research and then start generating their own knowledge and then they'll start understanding in a more meaningful way. So revised thinking is a very, very, very interesting and critical phase. And then finally, in the challenge mosaic pedagogy model that we have report out session. And this is so important for us as a teacher to understand. Now here is now the group of people that are coming together. So it's not about I. In the learning process from the beginning till the revised reflection stage, it was all about I. So I as Vishwanathan, what did I learn? I as Manjula, what did I learn? So it was all about the individual learning. But once you get into the revised thinking, where you join together in the group and you start exchanging the information, what did Manjula ma'am understand? Or what did Dr. Nayan sir understand? Or when you ask their perspectives, you're bringing all the multiple perspectives together, and then your actual learning really happens. And then probably the student will realize, अरे मैंने तो ऐसा नहीं सोचा, ऐसे भी सोच सकते हैं क्या? ऐसे भी हो सकता है क्या? So you get a multiple perspectives of different students, and then the learning actually moves into a different dimension. And another important thing here to note is it is about we. So it's so important for us to create the safety in the classrooms, because when you create a safety in the classrooms, the learning actually happens. When the student is not feeling safe in the classroom, he is always in the survival brain. The survival brain always talks about the survival instinct to run away because of the stress steroids that's causing in the brain. So you'll always be waiting for the bell. Kab bell bajega, kab main classroom chhod ke bhag sakta hu. So when you move the students to the midbrain and the cortical structure, and we of course will be seeing that today, how this webinar, how we can move the student to different parts of the brain. But report out session is so important because one of the team members comes on the behalf of the team and says, we as a team hasn't understood this concept. Can you please explain this? So it's not about I. So Sharmani ki koi gunjaish nahi hai wahan pe. We don't have to really worry if there are Radha, Karthik, Shankar, Sunil, whoever is there in the class, in that group, maybe Radha and Sunil hasn't understood. But when Ishwar is reporting saying that I haven't understood, so what really happens? Or maybe Imran say, oh, I understood this way, but probably my team is understood this way. So when one of them saying, we as a group have understood this, but I'm not sure if what I understood is correct. Can you explain to this in this way? So when we do this, real learning actually happens. So that's the brief introduction about the challenge mosaic that we are going to use, and we are going to use the challenge mosaic today. Manjula ma'am, before we proceed, do you want to give a 5 minutes break, or should we continue?
I think we'll give 1 minute break and let them have free up their hands and legs and take a small stroll in their home and hug their loved ones and sip a cup of tea and come back.
Maybe in case if we could have like an energizer, if you've got any energizer.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I mean, it'll really shake all of us up.
I just love it, you know.
Great.
Then I request everybody to stand up and switch on your camera.
Sure, we'll be more than happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing is you should all feel you're all small kids. Promise? The same kind. I want everybody to be a small kid. You. So, do you all know infinity? The word infinity symbol, horizontal 8. So now what we will do, stretch your arms. We will draw the infinity symbol in the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So in Bangalore, we all are experiencing heavy rains, and you know how tip tip barsat aati hai, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So इतना सारा बारिश हो रहा है और हमारे गार्डन में इतना सारा फल फूल सब नीचे गिर रहे हैं, and I wish we'll pick some good fruits and good flowers from this uh, water. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Ma'am, a
1,
small
2, 3.
request. If you could take your screen a little down.
Okay.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just assume there is a basket beside you. Just pick some flowers and fruits which has fallen from this rain during the rains. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's wonderful. Thank you all. Love you all for your wonderful participation. Yes, Vish, over to you.
Thank you so much.
So now it's a very interesting thing. Like we will be walking you through with some of the very interesting challenge that how can learning and presenting in a new framework be better for me than the classroom I grew up with. I'm repeating my challenge. How can learning and presenting in a new framework be better for me than the classroom I grew up with? For this, I would like to give you a small analogy. All these while, we were following a certain kind of new education policies and with its own pedagogies and so on. Now we have to implement the new framework, that is new education policy 2020. And we all know that it is always better for me and for us than the classroom which I grew up with. So now let's see what is this challenge all about. Yes, Vish.
Okay. All right. So the challenge, of course, like Manjula ma'am mentioned, is very interesting. Like, how can learning and presenting in a new framework be better for me than the classroom I grew up? It's just that before today I was teaching, and after today, after I got to know about the neuroscience and after I have understood about the brain science, now how is it going to affect my teaching in the classroom? And how is it going to affect uh, my students, and more importantly, how is it going to affect you? Because if it's going to work for you, I'm sure it's going to work for your students as well. And if it's going to be working for your students, it will definitely work for your kids in the home as well. So the challenge for today is, how can learning and presenting in a new framework be better for me than the classroom I grew up? You can make a note of this challenge. You can take a piece of paper. You can write down this challenge, and then you can, and then I'm going to start with initial thoughts. So you can take a piece of paper, or if you're having a notepad in a computer, you can open a new notepad, and then you can start writing down the challenge. So from here onwards, I just spoke to you about the challenge mosaic model, how we are going to do. We're going to start with initial thoughts, then we are going to go with multiple perspective, then we are going to do with reflection, then we will do it with revised thinking, and then we will do it with the report out. Now we are going to see that in the practical. So challenge for the day is, I repeat, how can learning and presenting a new framework be better for me than the classroom I grew up with? And I'm sure most of us grew up in the behavioralistic era, the behavioralistic way of teaching process. And your time starts now. 10 seconds. Time. Okay, so notice a few things that I did now when I shared this initial thought with you. So I said, I'm going to give you 1 minute for your initial thoughts. And I gave you 1 minute for initial thoughts. And it's not that I gave you this 1 minute and then took it straight away, this 1 minute, by talking over, you or talking to you during that 1 minute. This is very, very important. And later I gave you at the end of 10 seconds, I gave you a warning, because at the end of 10 seconds, it's going to be over. Because I set this classroom norm very clear out there. Because at the end of 10 seconds, this initial thoughts is going to end, and then thereafter the class is to begin appropriately. So normally what happens in a classrooms, we give this 1 minute for the initial thoughts, and or when we give some activity to the students and we don't give them their time. Moment we give that, then we start talking to maybe students sitting in the front bench, or maybe we are talking to all over the class, or we are talking to someone else. So what really happens is we are not following what we are instructing, and we are not trying to build the trust with the students. Building trust is so important, because most often what happens, the students will also start building the values when along with us. So building the trust is so important for us, and this is already built into this model. When we say 1 minute, it is 1 minute. Right? There is no talking over or anything that's happening in the 1 minute. That 1 minute is purely for your own consumption. आपके लिए ही है. 1 minute में कोई बात नहीं करेगा, कोई instructions नहीं देगा, कुछ नहीं करेगा. आप सिर्फ उस challenge के बारे में सोचेंगे. Sometimes it's so important, आपको उस challenge के बारे में कुछ तो मालूम रहेगा. Okay, and sometimes you'll say, मुझे तो कुछ पता नहीं इस challenge के बारे में. और sometimes you say, maybe I know this is a challenge. कुछ भी हो, आप इस challenge के बारे में आप scribble करेंगे. You'll write something on the noteboard, and it's purely for your consumption. It is not for anyone. At the end of 60 minutes, 60 seconds, it is purely, no one will be asked to show this initial thoughts, or nobody will be punished or rewarded because of any consequences they are going to show of that 160 seconds. That 60 seconds is purely for their thing. So this is how you do this in order to the students to start leaning in. When you give this time, student automatically आएंगे वो subject सीखने के लिए. The next thing, and the next thing that we will do is, like, for example, if I'm teaching in a classroom, I will begin with with something very interesting, and I will start with disequilibrium. And now, what is this disequilibrium? The word disequilibrium, if you look at the outset, looks like something is not equal, something is not all right, something is disturbed the balance or something like that, right? So what is this disequilibrium? So, Piaget in 1950s and 1960s in the Geneva School of Thinking, when he was teaching, and of course, you should know that Jean Piaget was also a botanist and a neuroscientist. So like most of us do, like Manjula ma'am and I do, we do a lot of experiments. Ours is a research organization. We do a lot of researches and experiments on our children. So Piaget then did some experiments on his two daughters, and he found out that the disequilibrium that he created for his daughters resulted in some conceptual change. And this conceptual change is actually the definition of new learning. So the first thing I would do in my classroom is to start creating a disequilibrium. The reason why we are creating this disequilibrium is because there are students who come to the classroom thinking that they know the answer. And it is important for us to create some sort of a disequilibrium, or to show them that what they have understood is wrong, or show them their understanding is broken to a point that it has created a disequilibrium. And when we do that, when we show that, then they're successfully engaging the students to start leaning in and learning, because brain always searches for the answer. Brain always wants the closure. Brain always looks for the solution. So it's important for us to start creating that disequilibrium. अगर मेरे को समझ में, I know about that answer or about that question that ma'am is going to teach, but still, if I bring in the concept of disequilibrium, then I would say, अरे ये तो मैंने नहीं सोचा था. Then let me join in and understand what more I should learn about it. So creating a disequilibrium is very, very important. Like I said, most often students come to the classroom and they have some misconception, and sometimes they have a preconception. and sometimes they also have pseudoscience. So there are some things that we need to exhibit to, or show to the students that what they know is probably broken to a point that they have the solutions and answers. So I would begin my class with a disequilibrium. So like the disequilibrium, what you see is the shape of the moon. That's the crescent moon that we saw. And we can also have the full moon. And then we also have slivers of moon out over there. And if you look at here, this is a sun. This is a picture of a sun. And all we have been teaching to the students that sun comes by the day and moon comes by the night. Yes, we all teach this is how it is. This is the laws of the nature. And yet, on a particular day, if you see sun and the moon appearing on the same sky at the same time, this is the perfect moment for a disequilibrium. And this is the time when I take my students out and show to them saying that, hey, look what's there up in the sky. There is a sun, there is a moon. But we all have learned that moon comes by the night and sun comes by the day. But yet here is a perfect situation for creating a disequilibrium. And then we show to the students that this is happening and this can happen. And when we show the situation, and then we can tell the students, all right, now let's look at the science behind how sun and moon can appear at the same time. And then when I show this disequilibrium and then start explaining to the students, they are in a better position to understand, yes, sun and moon can appear at the same time in the same sky. So as opposed to thinking that sun only comes by the day and moon comes by the night. A lot many times what really happens is when we do not create this disequilibrium, the child goes in life understanding that only moon comes by the night and sun comes by the day unless someone in later part of the life, they read or come to know or someone shows to them that this is how it is. So we can always have some sort of a disequilibrium to start with. Then of course, conceptual collisions. Conceptual collisions and disequilibrium are one and the same. So we next is we go to something very interesting, because we need to have this conceptual collisions. And conceptual collisions here for understanding for our subject or our challenge today is, I want to bring in the subject. Why is it easy to teach some children and why is it very difficult to some students? Some students are really arduous. Some students are really consuming our time. Some students are really tough, tough and irritating, and sometimes they can get so miserable in the classroom, they can eat into our time, and sometimes the class hi band kar denge. So why is it difficult for us to teach some children, and why is it easy? Koi bacche to classroom mein bahut they will learn, bahut easy se हम उनको पढ़ा सकते हैं. But why is it? So let's look at that from the neuroscience perspective. And the answer to that question is actually the neuroscience. Why is it easy to teach some children? Why is it difficult to teach some children? The answer actually lies in the neuroscience. And I wanted to here bring in this concept of the sentence that you see on your screen, differential neurobiological susceptibility to social context. Now, if I tell you this answer, the reason why it is difficult to teach some children and some children stuff, and the answer is differential neurobiological susceptibility to social. आप लोग तो say, oh my God, पहले बात तो ये neuroscience हमको तो समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, ऊपर से ये differential neurobiological susceptibility social, ये तो बिल्कुल समझ में नहीं आया. So the idea of bringing the disequilibrium is that. Now let us understand this sentence one by one, looking at those words. So let us start by the last piece, that is social context. A social context can be anywhere. It can be the school bus, or it can be the home we are living. It could be the room that I'm using, or it could be the classroom that I'm sitting in, or it could be on the street walking along with my puppy, or it could be in a cafeteria I'm meeting up with people. All these are the social contexts that we show up at. Okay, that is the social context. Now let's go to the first word, differential. Now the word differential, if you go to an automobile engineer and ask, what is the differences between this car and the other car? Probably he'll start discussing about the power of the car, the cubic capacity of the car, the number of people that can sit in the car, the torque, the engine capacity, the model, and all those things. But that's not the kind of differences we are talking about. We are talking about differences in sense, each brain is different from another brain. One brain is different from another brain, like how we have different fingerprints. Okay, so like my brain is different from your brain, and someone else's brain is different from other brain. And you obviously don't want to have my brain, and I don't want to have your brain. We are all differential in that way. And the word neurobiological, in simple words, means when today's class is all about translating the Greek and Latin word into simple English words that so that we can put it in our lexicon, हमारे डिक्शनरी में डाल सकते हैं और उनको हम क्लासरूम में ले जाके हम कैसे इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. So today's webinar is all about that. So neurobiological in that context means the wirings that we have. Of course, my wirings are different from your wirings. Manjula ma'am's wiring is different from anyone else's wiring. Each one of us have different wirings, which means genetically I'm different from the other person because there are genetics that we receive from mom and dad. And then there, of course, there is infrastructure, that is epigenetics, that plays a very, very important role. The taluk level which we come from, the district with which we come from, the place which we come from, the state which we come from, the country with which we come from. All those things plays a critical role in shaping up of the brain as well. So neurobiological means the different wirings that we have in those contexts. And susceptibility means how do we show up in those contexts. So like, for example, I might be a student who's very good in math. So if you put me in a situation where a lot of formulas, a lot of mathematical questions are being hurled at me, then मुझे तो बहुत खुशी होगी उस क्लास में बैठने के लिए. मैं तो पूरा सॉल्व करूंगा, और भी प्रॉब्लम्स दीजिए करके पूछ के मैं बहुत खुशी वो क्लास में बैठूंगा. लेकिन there will be another person who would have not built structures to an extent, or who may be having a weak structural changes with reference to his wiring, that he may not be enjoying to sit in that math class, whereas he will like to speak about the sports. Football के बारे में discuss कीजिए, he will tell about all the private clubs, everything about the football, right from the size, dimension, ground, who are the football players, this everything. He will like to discuss about that. Then you talk about social studies. Another student will enjoy to talk about the history. Another student will be more interested to talk about the reading. So there are different students because of the neurobiological susceptibility that we have, the different wirings that we have. We find ourselves that we fit in certain environments only. We like to be there in that environments only. And when we feel really overwhelming or uncomfortable sitting in another environment. So we as an educators and teachers, it's very, very important to understand those 40 students sitting in our classroom are neurobiologically having differential susceptibility in the social context that we are presenting. And the social context is the classroom. Therefore, a student who likes mathematics, he will be sitting in a classroom. A student who likes Hindi, he will be sitting in a classroom. A student who likes Marathi, he will be sitting in a classroom. So there are different set of students who are there, who are sitting. So our role as a teacher, our role as an educator is important to understand these differences those kids are bringing onto the context, and then help them to grow those structures, so that they adjust to all those challenges that we are presenting. And then of course, I want to bring in another conceptual collision or disequilibrium to make this more interesting. It is colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Before we get there, I just wanted to discuss about two other interesting words. Like for example, superior longitudinal fasciculus or corpus callosum. अब तो आप मुझे मारेंगे क्योंकि what is this sir? Superior longitudinal fasciculus, पहली बात तो ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा, and all these things. Superior longitudinal fasciculus actually means in simple words a bundle of wires. ये जो wire है आप यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं, in Greek and Latin means is just a bundle of wires. So longitudinal fasciculus actually means it's the bundle of tracks that is running within the cingulate gyrus, और बीच में जो दिमाग brain के बीच में जो run होता है उसको हम superior longitudinal fasciculus बोलते हैं. And corpus callosum is a thick bundle of wires that is connecting both the hemispheres of the brain, the left hemisphere of the brain, right hemisphere. ये जो दोनों को जोड़ता है, that is called as corpus callosum. वो wire is very important. Now you might ask, why should I know about all those things? The superior longitudinal fasciculus and corpus callosum is very, very important, because if a student is not having this corpus callosum or superior longitudinal fasciculus, it is difficult for the student to start learning about this science, mathematics, poetry, learn a language. It's very, very difficult. And the student will have to, especially when the corpus callosum is missing, there are normally doesn't miss, but there are obvious cases where there is possibility of corpus callosum missing. Then the student has to spend lot of time in order to understand those subjects. So these two things are very, very important. And of course, brain communicates through these wires. When I say wire, it's not like the telephone wire or electrical wires we're talking about. It is the white matter structure. It is the bundle of white matter structure that we have inside the brain. And we all know that the communication happens through the electrical signals. And the sentence, the most interesting sentence that I want to discuss over here. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Now, if you look at this, how can you say colorless? One side तो आप colorless बोलते हैं, दूसरे साइड green है बोल रहे हैं, दूसरे साइड तो idea बोल रहे हैं और सो रहा है, idea सो रहा है, and बहुत furiously भी सो रहा है. How can somebody sleep furiously? It absolutely makes no sense at all. And of course, this is a nonsense sentence. And this sentence was given by a person, by a scientist who went
Noam
against
Chomsky.
Noam Chomsky was a scientist who went against the norms of the day at that point of time. When B.F. Skinner, the behavioralistic, who was teaching about how the learning actually happens, and he, in fact, in his book, he went on to say that the languages are learned like this. माँ अपने बच्चे को थोड़ा शब्द सिखाती हैं, पिताजी अपने बच्चे को थोड़ा शब्द सिखाते हैं. इससे क्या होता है, वो शब्द को बच्चा बार बार रिपीट करके वो लैंग्वेज सीखता है. This is what was the understanding at that point of time. And this is the time when Noam Chomsky went ahead and said, look, Skinner, what you're saying is absolutely wrong. And the languages are not learned that way. उस तरह हम भाषा नहीं सीखते. But languages are learned because we have some innate capacity in the brain that helps the children to learn language. And that innate capacity is not there in any other animals. Animals को हम behavioralistic approach कर सकते हैं. उदाहरण के लिए एक chicken को, एक मुर्गी को ऐसे करो करके हम सिखा सकते हैं, rewards and punishment के through. And a dog can be trained in this way. And they will continue to do that activity, not knowing why they are doing it. They will do it, but they will not understand why they are doing it. लेकिन हम लोग इंसान हैं. इंसान को thinking ability है, cognitive ability है. And we cannot train them with the behavioralistic approach. And that's why to a kid, if you teach them English and then expose them this sentence saying colorless green ideas sleep furiously, if you look at this, is grammatically a perfect sentence. उसमें verb है, adverb है, noun है, सब कुछ है. Grammatically, it's a perfect sentence. But फिर भी this is a nonsense sentence, which meaning नहीं होता. And that's why this is the most interesting sentence that was written for actually teachers. But unfortunately, as a teachers, we wouldn't have come across about this sentence. So what it goes on to suggest that you can always train the animals in a behavioralistic approach, but humans can't be trained in a behavioralistic approach. Humans will have to move towards this cognitive approach. And then again, of course, I'm going to walk you through the multiple perspectives and like I said, today's class is more about translating these Greek and Latin words into simple English words. Now let's look at the oranges and elements. Now I have an orange in my hand. Now, if I was teaching physically in a classroom, which I of course teach, I teach to the 8th grade students, 7th grade students, and other students, and 4th, 5th grade students as well. When I'm teaching to those students in a classroom, and when I'm teaching this particular subject, especially when it comes to the brain science, I take about 40 students, about 40 oranges to my classroom, and give one orange each to everyone. And then when I give this orange to everyone, and when I'm teaching this particular subject, then I ask them to take this orange, and then I ask them, what is this? Then they say, this is orange. And this is a fruit that's not seasonal. It's available throughout the year. And aapko to pata hi hai, Nagpur, Maharashtra is the place where it's a land of oranges. So we give these oranges, and then when I start peeling these oranges, when I start peeling these oranges like this, then I ask students, now ask them, what is this? Then they say, oh, that's so simple for me to answer. They say, this is peel. Then I say, is this peel? Yes, it is peel. And slowly as I'm peeling, then I ask the students, give me another name for this. And then they say, this is skin. Or then I would say skin. Then they say, yes, skin. Then I would say, this is cortex. They say, what did you say? Cortex? What is cortex? Then I would say, skin ka dustan Greek mein cortex bolte hai. Then they say, cortex, yes. And then slowly they'll start relating to the brain science that I am teaching. Since I'm teaching about the brain, then they'll start connecting this cortex to the skin, the superficial part of the brain. Superficial part of the brain, the upper structure, is also called as cortex. So I explain to them this is cortex. And then they get a new word. Ah, this is cortex. Okay. And then as I'm peeling the orange, then I start putting this orange into two halves. Then once I make this orange into two halves, then I say, this is one half, then there's another half. Then once I show them this is two halves, then they say, what is the name for this? Then say, someone will say, hemisphere. They say, what? Yes, this is left hemisphere and this is right hemisphere. And I have left hemisphere and I have right hemisphere. And if you look at the center of this left hemisphere, then I show them the thick bundle of wires. And I ask them, what is this? Then they say, oh, this is corpus callosum. They say, this is corpus callosum that is helping to connect the left hemisphere with the right hemisphere. Look how it is easy for them to start understanding. Then I said that you have a cortex, you have a left hemisphere, and then you also have the right hemisphere. Then I move forward. Then there will always be a student in a classroom who will say, can I put this in my mouth? Because it's so nice. Then they'll say, this smells so citric. This tastes so nice. Then this is an opportunity for me to teach about the senses. Then I say, yes, all this information comes to the brain through the 5 senses. And the senses could be the eyes that we see. The eyes that we see brings in all this information. For example, the left eye brings this information, sends the information to the optic nerve, sends contralateral to the occipital lobe. Then I did this. What did you say? Occipital lobe. And they get another word saying occipital lobe. So occipital lobe is just behind the brain, and that's the place where all the informations are being processed. So it's not the eye that is processing the brain, the visuals. It is the brain that is processing. And where is it processing? It is processing here at the back of the brain, and the occipital lobe is there. So now look, they got this word hemisphere. Now they know what is this cortex. Now cortex, if you start teaching to them pre-cortex, prefrontal cortex, neocortex, and all those things, it look very complicated to them. Unko bahut dikkat hogi samajhne ke liye. But when you make this very simple, skin, and skin is another word, Greek mein usko cortex bolte hain, and then it's always easy for them to understand. And then next, smell is the next thing that I want to teach to the students. And smell is so important because it moves the information to the long-term memory, because it is the one that bypasses the thalamus. Thalamus is the router kind of a structure that transfers information to different parts of the brain. But the smell is the one thing that directly goes to the olfaction, which is there in the mid part of the brain. So next is the smell is that I want to teach to them. So I teach to them about the olfaction. I teach to them how the smell helps in long-term memory. And next is I want to teach them the sound. So I take this orange and then I shake to them. Though there is no sound that is coming, but I pretend that there could be a possible sound that is coming. Then I would say ears. The sounds are going from here to the vestibular cochlear region, and it goes thalamus and then goes to the other areas of the brain. So I teach them this smell. I teach them the taste. Then I teach them. I help them to touch and feel this orange. The touch is a sense. Seeing is a sense. Then I teach them the senses appropriately, and then I exhibit to the students that all the information that we gather, it is the sensory information that goes to the brain, and then the brain processes information and sends to the different areas of the body. And then, of course, I'm going to explain to them how in the traditional classroom we have only the 2-dimensional approach, where our focus is more on the temporal lobe. Whatever we teach, it is only going to the temporal lobe. Now, temporal lobe is the new word that I'm explaining. So what is the temporal lobe? The structure that is beneath here, this part is called as a temporal lobe. But when I am teaching using the neural lens or neural methods, it is just not this region, whereas I am using the occipital lobe, the visuals they are seeing, the parietal lobe, they are touching and feeling, the proprioception, all this happens over here. And of course, the thinking part happens in the prefrontal area. So when we are teaching through the neural method, then we are allowing the whole brain to come together in the learning process. Now we all know that brain is the source of human cognition, right? The cognition is very, very important, and that happens in the brain. So the process of acquiring the knowledge, of course, happens through the sensory information. And how does it happen? It happens through hypothesis and testing. The difference between the child who is born with 100 billion neurons and the child who is sitting in a classroom is just that the child has done many processing and built the neural circuits in the classroom. And that is why, because of the hypothesis and testing, like for example, we do certain things, and इस बार तो हम ऐसे किए होंगे, next time we will do some other methods and see, next time we will do some other methods and see, and each time we are doing that, we are learning, and each time we are learning, we are building those neural circuits. And this is where we want to this is how the brain cognition also happens. Then, like I said, the brain roughly has about 100 billion neurons, and all these 100 billion neurons are critical for us to make those neural circuits. And like I said, the difference between a newborn baby and the child sitting in a classroom is just that they have processed this information multiple times, many a times. And then there, of course, there's constructions of the complex networks that is happening in your brain. So your thinking, your feeling brain, and of course, all those things has to come together for the learning process. And if it's coming together for the learning process, yes, of course, the learning is going to be in the long-time memory. And then there, of course, we're going to have the asynchronous students as well. There are, like I said, no one brain is same as another brain. There are certain brains, so there are students in a classroom who would acquire the things very fast. And there are some students who will take time in order to understand. And then therefore, what really happens is, there is a possibility, किसी बच्चे को जाके आप पूछेंगे आपको मैथ्स अच्छा लगता है, मैथ अच्छा लगता है, they'll say, oh, math, I don't understand, I don't like it. Science तो बिल्कुल मुझे पसंद नहीं है. They will start, and the reason why they are saying this is actually this. It's just that they have to spend a little more time in building those neural circuits to understand that subject better. So it's not that they do not like it, and it's not that way. It's just that as an educators and teachers, we should help them to build those neural circuits so that they start learning those subjects also better. Because we know that brain actually develops between 3 to 5 years, right? बच्चा पैदा होने के बाद 3 to 5 years is very, very important, because that's the time when the brain is rapidly developing. And of course we have 100 billion neurons right from the birth, but the important architecture is set in place by age of 9. And it's important for us to develop this, help the students to develop those neural circuits in this particular time frame, closely handhold them and engage them. It's just that we need to help the students develop the neural circuit, not only from the front and back, but also from the inside out. So when I say inside out, I'm talking about the emotions. We need to help the students develop right kind of emotions as well in the learning process. So it's just not superficial learning. We also need to help the students to learn from the inside out, meaning give enough adequate weightage to the emotions as well. Then of course, genetics, that plays a very, very important role. The skills that mom has, the skills that dad has, of course, we will inherit those as well. And of course, like I said, epigenetic factors, the infrastructure that where we live also plays a very, very important role in our learning process. And then, of course, I want to talk to you about the evolution brain. As a teachers and educators, it's very, very important for us to understand. So we have this reactive brain, and we have emotional brain, and we have thinking brain. So like from the evolution perspective, it's about roughly 300 million years. It is the lower part of the brain. This part of the brain is the reactive brain, or it's also called as the hind brain, which is more related to survival, feeding, fighting, fleeing. And fleeing, flying, feeding is so important because it helps us for self-preservation. And it is important for us to focus on these, otherwise we'll all perish. So it's important for us also to be in the reactive brain. But when it comes to the learning, it is not at all suggestible for us to be in a constant state of survival mode. If you're in constant state of survival mode, then you are allowing your body to soak with a lot of sugar, cortisols, adrenaline, which means all the toxic elements, which is not at all advisable during the learning process. So it's important for us to strike the right balance between the mid part of the brain and the other important part of the brain. And then next we go is to the emotional part of the brain, or the brain that is little relatively new, about 100 million years ago. And this is where actually the learning, music, joy, love, equanimity, connections with others, all these things happens. And of course, self-regulation also happens over here, the ability to overcome those impulses and learning to contribute, togetherness, and all those things happens over here in this part of the brain. Like I said, I bet if someone is there in this part of the brain, then the real learning actually happens. But when the student as opposed to the student being in a constant survival brain, the learning actually does not happen. Whereas you can surprise and you can engage the student, but actual learning will not happen. You can draw the student to your attention. You can use that state of affairs to your advantage to draw the attention of students, but the learning will not happen if you're in constant state of the survival mode. But actual learning happens in the emotional brain. Then, of course, it's important once the student are moving to the emotional brain to jump them or push them to the thinking brain. The thinking brain is the cortex, the new structure, this part of the brain, which is relatively a very new, 4 million years old. This is where actually imagination, critical thinking, creative insights, intuition, predicting, planning, or executive decisions, all those things happens over there in the prefrontal cortex or the cortical structures of the brain. And it's very, very important we push the students to this area of the brain. And I'm giving you an assurance with 100% guarantee, if a student is there in this part of the brain, when you're teaching any subject, then absolutely learning is going to happen. Hands down, the learnings will happen. बच्चा कुछ भी सब्जेक्ट आप पढ़ाइए इस स्टेट में रहने से वो आराम से सीखेगा. Then of course I wanted to bring very important area. It's so like what will you do, you know, when you are as a neural educator, now that you know about the neuroscience, what differences can you make when you step into the classrooms? Now you have all the answers from the neuroscience perspective. Now it's all that you need to know how you want to do it and how you should do it. So it's like difference between the newborn baby and the student who's sitting in a classroom is this. Like I said, 100 billion neurons, but that student, that baby who is just born, is in survival mode. It has not built any structural connections. It has not gone itself to the midbrain or a cortical brain. But the student who is sitting in a classroom has definitely processed the information, definitely processed through hypothesis and testing, and definitely has built the neural structures and connections. And then therefore, he is in a better position to understand what we are teaching. In other words, babies are like little zebras. They're all running around. Okay. The difference between a little zebra, baby, and the zebra is that the zebra doesn't have a prefrontal cortex. But we as humans, we also have prefrontal cortex, and we do also have amygdala. Amygdala is amygdala in English means elements. Elements. These are the two little structures that is their bilateral side of the brain, which is connected with the fear, which is connected with the reactive brain. So if a student is in this part of the brain constantly, the reptilian brain, okay, the student will not be able to learn. So it's very, very important for us to push the students from the amygdala to the cortical structures, prefrontal cortex of the brain, to ensure that he is maintaining a proper balance between this amygdala and the prefrontal cortex for a beautiful learning. All right. So this is what we wanted to share in this webinar. So we know now that next time when we are stepping into the classroom, it is not that we should be punishing the child. There can be a child who is arduous. There can be a situation where the child is very tough to teach. But now you know the answer, that you are not going to punish the child. What happens if you punish the child? You're pushing the child to myelinate or build the wrong neural circuits. And each time you punish, you're strengthening those wrong circuits in the brain. But now you have the answer. If the child is arduous, the child is little tough for us to teach, but then important for us to give them opportunities. So as a neural educator, as a teacher, it's important that we always give them sufficient opportunity for them to move to a different pedestal. All right, so I'm going to stop there and hand over the
Thank you.
thing to
Thank you,
Manjula.
Vish.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vish. That was a fabulous explanation, and you have enough appreciation from our participants in the chat box. So now I'll be sharing one link, which is a Google Form link. It's like a long-term potentiation. We want to strengthen the
Manjula, ma'am?
synaptic. Yes.
Manjula, before we proceed there, can we give 3 minutes to the participant to slowly process on those 3 questions?
Yeah, sure. I missed it. I'm so sorry. Please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So before we proceed to the next, I'm going to give you 5 minutes for you to process all that you learned now in this webinar in these 3 structural questions. What was surprising to you? What did you know, but now you're seeing in a new way? And the third question is, what more help do you want with? Or what do you want to explore further? These 3 questions, 5 minutes for carefully, quietly reflecting the challenge. Your 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and I'm going to hand it over to Manjula.
Yeah, thank you, Vish. Dear teachers, I have shared one Google form, which is very interesting engagement sheet. It is a sort of LTP session for you all. I'm once again repeating, LTP stands for long-term potentiation, which helps you to strengthening your synaptic connections. Yeah, please take 3 more minutes time and fill the Google form. I hope the form is accessible to everyone. Please do text us in the chat box if yes.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not able to see the form except for the form that you've posted for feedback.
Not feedback once again. Okay, now just have a look at it.
Okay, I'll just have a look at it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And what time are we coming back, Manjula ma'am, for reflection?
I think we will be just 3 more minutes, and we'll have a sum up session and hand over the session to ma'am. Since it's a webinar, I think it'll be slightly difficult for us to go to revise thinking and report out session. So on site, when we'll be meeting Dalby Foundation, we'll be having a complete full-fledged challenge mosaic with lots of hands-on experiences. Yeah,
Absolutely, ma'am.
Okay.
As of now, I have received 2 responses. Sonali ma'am and Agnes Fernandez. Oh, that's great. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. If everybody have done with the Google response sheet. Well, thank you. So I have received 6 responses as of now. It's a very interesting one.
Hello, can
Yeah.
you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, you've also sent a message in the chat box saying that we need to download the app. This is regarding what?
That is not app, it is a Cliff Notes. We usually we give lots of in the challenge mosaic, we have multiple perspectives, right? So from the different perspectives, different neuroscientists or the different videos or the different PDFs, what information we get under neural lens. So that is just a various different notes and references for our learning
Okay.
today.
All right.
Today's
So
takeaway.
we will be able to
That-
access those if we download that from the Play Store.
Yeah,
is that
you
right?
can just, it's not a Play Store, it will just copy into your system, that's it.
Oh, okay.
I
Thank you.
think, ma'am, there's a slight confusion. So,
Yeah.
the Teacher Talk app is a social media platform for teachers, which is
All right.
which is an app that is designed by the foundation, that is SR Davi Foundation.
That's wonderful.
And you can download the app. So for all to collect a certificate after the session is done, you will have to download
Okay.
your app, and within 2 days you will receive the certificate on the app itself.
Okay.
So maybe after Manjula ma'am is done, I'll just run you through a little with what are the next process to get
Sure,
the certificate.
sure.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Okay, so now it's time for sum up. And in today's session, there were 5 important points to take away. One is always introduce your class with lots of physical activities, crossing the midline, and creating the disequilibrium in the classroom. These 3 important points are very important. And very importantly, always wear a smile on your face and then enter the classroom. Then the 4th important point is conceptual collation with disequilibrium, then followed by the oranges, giving the any kind of content or any kind of concepts with a multiple perspective. We are not teaching one single part of the brain, but whereas we are teaching the whole brain or the different parts of the brain all put together. Then the very important one is brain development and learning. Then asynchronous development. Every different parts of the brain does not develop evenly. So we need to understand the kid, and we need to make sure that always right interaction and right intervention will always help the child to move further. So never label the child, never stratify any children in your classroom. And at last, understand the evolution of brain. Apart from this, we have again buffet of courses and learning experiences with IBBRF and braincraft.com. Do contact us for more lectures, more webinars, and more on-site programs in your premises. We would love to visit Maharashtra and different parts of different districts in Maharashtra. Thank you, Lakshmi ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity. We are really happy engaging your beloved teachers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Namaste.
much. Thank you so much, Manjula ma'am. Thank you so much, Vishwanathan sir. It really means
Thank
a
you.
lot to us.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
Pleasure.
I mean, I'm sure today all our teacher participants are taking in very good, a very rich learning from today's session. And I'm eagerly, I mean, even with the teachers, it is me equally, very eagerly waiting to go ahead with the next session, the hands-on, the practical session that you plan to do. I mean, I really can't be waiting for it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to both of you all for all the content that you've supported us with. And very soon, to all the teachers, we'll be having the next session with them very soon, either offline or online, whatever, we'll surely keep you posted about it. Most importantly, now that you all have invested 2 hours of your real valuable time, it will be great that you all I mean, for us to respect your time is why we'll be providing you all with a certificate for the same. You all can download the certificate from the app. There is a feedback form which is sent on the chat section. You could surely find Neha is constantly posting about the feedback. So please give your feedback for us, for both our amazing facilitators to know how amazing they are. So please do share some love towards them. And so based on your name that will be put across on the feedback form, a similar certificate would be issued on the app. So there are both the links, which is the iOS and the Android links for the app. Please do download. Also, you can visit SR Darvi Foundation's website, and we have events lined up. We've got 15 events lined up for the month of April and May, which are all aligned to the NEP 2020. We've got something on art-based learning, mind gym. We have on making toys from trash. So we would really love to have all of you all back again. So please do stay connected with us and do check our website. You will get all the details. You can register online for the same and join in for the next session. Thank you so much सगळ्या participants ना खूप खूप धन्यवाद की तुम्ही आज जॉईन केलेले आहात आमच्या सेशनला. आणि नक्कीच फीडबॅक फॉर्म भरा. आणि फीडबॅक फॉर्म भरल्यानंतर तुम्हाला खाली 2 लिंक दिलेले आहेत. एक आहे अँड्रॉइडचं आणि दुसरं आहे iOSचं. तर ते जे ऍप आहे ते ऍप डाउनलोड करा. डाउनलोड केल्यानंतर 2 दिवसाच्या आत तुम्हाला तुमचं सर्टिफिकेट, आजचं सेशनचे रिलेटेड सर्टिफिकेट तुम्हाला मिळतील. आणि वेबसाईट ही चेक करा. त्याच्यावरही बऱ्याच बाकीचे जे इव्हेंट्स आम्ही ऑर्गनाईज केलेत, वेबिनार आणि वर्कशॉप, हा पूर्ण एप्रिल आणि मे महिन्यात, आणि सगळं रिलेटेड आहे NEP 2020. कारण आता तुम्ही जूनमध्ये परत शाळा सुरू होत आहे with the execution of NEP 2020. आणि त्यामुळे we thought that all of these workshops and webinars are going to be free of cost. कुठेही कशाचे चार्जेस आम्ही घेणार नाही आहोत. आणि टीचर टॉक ऍप हा बेसिकली इट इज अ सोशल मीडिया प्लॅटफॉर्म फॉर टीचर्स. तर तुम्ही तुमचे लेसन प्लॅन शेअर करू शकता. तुम्ही हे शेअर करू शकता की तुम्ही कुठल्या पद्धतीने तुमच्या शाळेत शिकवतायत, ताकी महाराष्ट्रातले बाकीच्या टीचर्सांना पण कळू शकतात आणि दे कॅन इम्प्लिमेंट द सेम इन देअर क्लासरूम्स. तर वी आर ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट दिस प्लॅटफॉर्म टू शेअर इनोव्हेशन, शेअर युअर आयडियाज अँड बेसिकली हॅव ऑल टीचर्स ऑन बोर्ड. Yeah, so thank you so much परत सगळ्यांना. आणि 21 तारखेला नेक्स्ट सेशन आहे माइंड जिम.
May I say something here?
Yes, please ma'am.
So I am Aditi Vaidya. I am a teacher for grade 11th and 12th, and I found this session very, very insightful. I'm very thankful that I joined, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to interact in a much better fashion. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much ma'am. This
Thank
indeed
you.
means a lot. Thank you.
And would there be some sort of contact that we can contact somebody in case for further information, or it will be
Absolutely.
only through the app that we have
I am
downloaded?
sharing my number and my email ID.
All right.
In case if you are a facilitator who takes up sessions in Marathi, in any language rather, in Hindi, English or Marathi, and if you think that teachers can really benefit with the same, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to have you as a facilitator on board to support the other teachers.
Absolutely, I'll be more than happy to do my bit. Have
Sure,
you put
ma'am.
your name and number in
I
the
have.
chat?
I have put my mail ID and my number.
Okay,
So
thank
you
you so
surely
much. I
join.
will copy paste it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all on 24th.
Thank you, Lakshmi ji, and your voice and your words, you're so soothing. My Broca's and Wernicke's areas of my brain started jumping and dancing. You know, you are
Means so
really
much.
rocking.
Thank you
It's
so
very
much,
pleasing to hear from you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Hello, your number is 9 digit. It has to be 10 digit.
Is it?
Hello?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes. Is this all right now?
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah, so Lakshmi, I am from Maharashtra आणि मी मराठीत घेऊ शकते.
great, great,
Section.
great. Thank you so much, ma'am. Great. So we'll be more than happy. Nakkits तुम्ही, I mean, I'll surely get your number and details through our database, but then surely we would love to have you on board as a facilitator for the next session.
At present, I'm in Bangalore, but me born and brought up Mumbai.
Is it?
So-
Oh, that's amazing. Great.
Yeah, thank you, Manjula ma'am, and thank you,
Thank
Vish.
you. Thank you, ma'am.
Wish-
Thank you so
Wish,
much
sir.
for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I love that orange example so much. You know, we trainers try to tell the teachers, this is how you have to do, this is how you have to do, but you have gone one step ahead and taught the most complex in such a simple way.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you, ma'am.
great work you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank
And
you.
we'll
Thank you
wait
so
for
much.
some more this from you, sessions, person and online. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much. Thank you.
I think I was that student in the classroom who had their mouth watering looking at the oranges.
I know. So that's how we need to make class very interesting, very loving,
Absolutely.
and create that safe place and bring that sense of belongingness among the
True.
students.
True.
So then we are all superstars.
True. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Parshuram, sir.
Lakshmi ma'am, what is your surname? If I'm sorry, I missed out on that.
I am Lakshmi Iyer Motaling.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think we can go ahead and end the session for the day and join in again on the 21st. You all can check out the website for the next event and workshop webinar details, and you all can register online itself.
See you all, teachers. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Namaste. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.